G'day, Adrian the bee farmer here for the Tocal 2020 online virtual field day, and I've been asked to talk about how I provide quality nukes to my customers. Hi, I'm Adrian the bee farmer. I'm a queen breeder from New South Wales. I also produce quality nucleus hives, package bees and beehives for my customers. I pride myself in good quality genetics of queen bees and breeding lines for disease resistance, honey production and docility. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about being a beekeeper. I work with my dog Honey. I wouldn't change what I do for the world. So my dad got me into beekeeping when I was younger. He introduced me to bees and taught me the basics. And then from then I went on to work for some big commercial beekeepers and gain experience in the industry, and decided to move the path of queen breeding and go down that road and rearing quality bees. So what we're doing here is we're just going to open up and have a look at the nuke and go through some of the benefits and features of what I do. A little bit of smoke at the entrance. So all my nuke hives are made up from package bees, shook onto foundation, so that my customers are all getting brand new frames, brand new foundation, disease free. So these bees are about 4 weeks old, this nuke. We've shaken 1.3 kilos of bees into this box. We've given them about 3.5 to 4 weeks with a well-bred queen from good genetics that we select for traits like honey production, docility, gentleness, calmness on the comb, disease resistance and pollen gathering. So what we're going to do is I'll just remove a few of these frames. We're just doing an inspection prior to the bees being sold, once some of their progeny hatches and comes through. So these bees have got lovely stores of pollen. On this side we've got a little bit of larvae and eggs, pollen, stored honey, which the bees have collected out here. Let's have a look for the queen. You see the nectar dripping out of there. Side. Lots of pollen stores on the outside, brood, got some cap brood. Again, lots of honey and pollen stores on the outside. We like to ensure there's plenty of food in the nukes so that when the customer gets them, the bees are well established and ready to eat that honey out and expand. And obviously the brood hatch in their lovely new beehive that they've gone and purchased. It's all cap brood. So again, we mark the queen so that the customer can locate and find her easily in their new hive. And it reduces the risks of them squashing her when they put her back in. And there she is there. I'm just going to pluck her off there. Doesn't want to leave me. Yep. So there's our queen, just wandering along there. Nice blue mark on her. And knowing where she is now on the frame, I'm able to put that back in there and push it up against the wall. No risk of squashing her. Again, lots of beautiful stores of pollen and honey. Very gentle bees, nice and docile. So this nucleus hive here, I'll wait till some of this progeny hatches out and I'll inspect them for the colour, temperament, and I'll do an evaluation on these bees. Check, make sure there's no brood or problems, diseases, things like that in there prior to sale. Then this will be transferred into one of these transport boxes with a closable entrance. Okay, so here we are. We've got a nuke that's been transferred from its timber box into the Corflute transport box. And what we're going to do is we're just going to tape up this box, install it in the car for the customer so that they can go home and install and transfer it into their hive. So on top of my box here, I've noticed I've got all my markings here. We've got PD, Q, M, E, B, L, P, H. So PD basically means that this hive's had its pest and disease inspection. Q means that it's got a queen. M means that the queen is marked. E for eggs, B for brood, L for larvae, and there's lots of pollen and honey stores. I've also got the date here, 29th of the 9th, 20, and it's been signed off by myself to say that I was the one who inspected this nucleus hive. This nucleus hive, it says nuke number 86, so this particular hot nuke has come from the timber box 86, so if there was to be a problem with this later on down the track, I'd be able to, again, trace back to number 86 and then check that box and equipment in that box. We've got the Beekeeper's registration number that it's going to, NG218, and then we've also got A Grew, which is my name there because this is actually going to be one of my nucleus hives to install in one of my boxes. So what we'll do now is I'll shut the entrance up and we'll tape it up and I'll show you how we put it in the car. These transport boxes, it's very, very important that we tape these sides all closed. I also like to tape the front here, or you can actually use staples, put across the front. These do have little locking tabs that you have to pull out, but I wouldn't trust them in a car if there was an incident. So I'm just going to tape the sides. As you can see, these nukes have good ventilation in the front and rear. So now what we're going to do is just close this, push that little bee in there, close the front entrance to the ventilation setting there to make sure no bees can come out. And what I'm going to do now is just have a look up inside. Sometimes you can use your bee brush to brush the bees off if you have a rogue like this one here. We just want to get him away, or her. And that's now ready to go in the car. Okay, so we've got a late model European car here. I'll just check my entrance is all closed up. There's one rogue bee there that I want to get out. Away. Generally, if you do have a bee, they will sit on the ventilation. So as you can see here, we've got air conditioning vents in the back. So the bees are going to be nice and cool. Let's wedge the box in there. Yeah, that box is not going anywhere. There's good ventilation over here, nothing blocking that. And also on this side, the ventilation's not been blocked by the door when I close it. It's not going anywhere. There's no airbags in this part of the vehicle, so this should ride quite safe and secure. Okay, so here we are. We've transported this nucleus hive to this location. The box is set up ready to go. I'm going to go through the installation process and just cover a few tips and problems that I've seen people come across. So one thing you want to do is have your hive set up. The frames are in there, the excess frames. So we've got a 5-frame nuke. This is an 8-frame hive. So we've got 3 spare frames in this box, ready to go. I've got a feeder on top there. I've got 2 entrances that are open, and I've got 1 that's closed, just to reduce the entrance size down so the bees have less area to guard and look after it as they're getting established. When you're placing your nuke at home, we've just got it out of the car, we really want to open it up pretty much straight away. You don't really want to leave the bees to get hot and cook and stress any more than what they are. So you've got 2 options of placement. You can either sit the nucleus hive directly on top of the box they're going into, or we can sit it nice and comfortably next to the hive. There's no ants here at this location. If it was up on a stand, obviously you'd probably better off to put it on top. And then what I'll do is I'll just give them a bit of smoke around the entrance, and I'm just going to open the entrance here to let the bees fly. So the last thing you want to do is open and try to transfer the bees after they've been bouncing around in the back of a car. The bees will be quite stressed, quite aggressive at this stage. So you really want to open them up and let them fly for a couple of hours, orientate, let them settle down. Okay, so we've allowed these bees to fly for about 4 hours. They've settled right in, they're nice and calm. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to transfer the bees across. As you can see, the entrance is facing the same way as the entrance on the main box. Take out our transport tape off here. It's a bit later in the day here now, and these bees are in a perfect, nice, shaded location for this time of the day. So what I'm going to do is 1 frame at a time, pull that out and just put it in the same position and orientation as the other frames. There's our brood frame. Lovely. Just having a look for a marked queen inside the box. We've got some spare bees here. So all I'm going to do is just give them a shake out in front of the hive, and they'll work it out and orientate their way back inside. It's important to wear all your gear, and I do recommend you wear gloves as well, especially if you're starting out and you're not used to bee stings and handling bees. We put our feeder on there, which we'll come back later on and give the bees a feed of sugar syrup. Open the top of the box there. These boxes are very handy to keep and hold on to if later on you need to catch a swarm or a neighbour rings you about a swarm. They're very handy to keep a few spare frames of foundation in this box, or later on if you need to split, because they're finding swarm cells. They're very good, and it's easy as that. Hi, so we've just moved down here into the shade, get out of the sun, and we've been joined by Honey Dog. She's often out running around beekeeping with me. When you pick up your nucleus hive, it's best to do it in the morning, just before the bees start flying and it's nice and cold, or late in the afternoon, just on sunset as all the field bees are coming back in. If you pick them up during the middle of the day, half the bees are out flying in the field, you're actually going to leave a lot of the bees behind. So it's a good idea to pick them up early in the morning or late in the afternoon. And I personally like to go through every nucleus hive with my customer, and I show them the eggs, the larvae, the capped brood, a marked queen, honey stores, pollen, no diseases, and make sure that they're confident and they're happy with their purchase. And then I assist helping them tape them up, installing them in the car in a safe location, not on the front seat or where airbags can impact the bees, and make sure that if they've got to travel overnight, wherever they get to halfway, they do let the bees out of the car, they open them up in a paddock or a field somewhere, they allow the bees to fly for the next day, close them up that afternoon, and then continue on their journey to make sure they get home safe. Transporting bees can be very, very dangerous and very risky, but if it's done in the right way and people think about things and plan your trip as well, it is quite a safe thing to do. Bees can handle cold quite well, so by transporting bees at night time or early morning in the cold, it's very suitable to move the bees. If you've got a hot nucleus hive in the back of a car with no air conditioning on, it's not going to last a trip. So make sure you've got air conditioning on. They're in a nice shaded spot in the vehicle where they've got access to a bit of cold blowing air around them. If you've decided to get into beekeeping and you've ordered a nucleus hive from a supplier and you're going to pick them up, if you're not sure how you react to bee stings, take someone with you that does. Someone that knows it's had a sting, that knows that they're not anaphylactic, and it's also a great idea to carry an EpiPen. So I talked a little bit about how we make up our nukes and about how we're putting everything onto brand new equipment. Now that might not be a viable option for a lot of people, but I just stress, don't use old brood combs and old frames from your production hives and use them in nucleus hives to sell to customers, kind of using customers as a way to replenish the frames in your beehives. So even if that means you do a thorough pest and disease inspection on your beehive and you lift frames up and turn it into a double brood chamber and put nice new foundation and new frames in the bottom of a disease-free hive, allow the bees to draw comb, allow the queen to lay eggs, then move those frames across into a nuke, add a nice new seasonal queen, good temperament, mark if the customer requires it, and at least then you've got the confidence that you're selling good quality bees. You may have noticed all my nukes have a number on them. So what I'm doing is when I make up my production hives, which are also numbered the same, I shake bees out of production hives and harvest bees, and then I'm noting down, record keeping, what hive the bees have come from and what nucleus hives the bees have gone into. So if there is a problem down the track, there's some sort of traceability back to where it originated from, and I'll be able to find that quite quickly. By exchanging brood combs from diseased hives, you're just spreading chalk brood or AFB, EFB, all those sorts of diseases. Another point on that is when you're purchasing your bees, I highly recommend people ask for a certificate number off some sort of pest and disease management course, just to show that the person that you're buying the bees from is qualified in pest and disease identification and are doing the right thing in the industry. So this course was done online through the National Bee Biosecurity Program, AgriFutures, Australian Honeybee Industry Council and Plant Health Australia have all supported this course and put towards that. Otherwise, I've also done some fantastic courses at Tokyo College on pest and disease management. They run a great course for beekeepers and I can highly recommend to go along and do their course. Another point to add is it's important to ask the person that's supplying or making up your nucleus hive where the queen comes from. The queen is the heart and soul of a beehive, so by ensuring that there's good genetics in that queen, that's what's going to come out in your beehive. The last thing you want to have is a queen that has a bad temperament, has an aggressive nature, doesn't produce honey, or a swarming tendency where they can become a nuisance to the public and people around. So make sure you ask what race or subspecies the bees are, and is that suitable for your climate, where you're located, and the sources that you're going to be providing the bees. Do your research, look into the different pros and cons of different races of bees. I personally breed Italian stock. I find they're hardy, they're good for the weather, they handle the hot climate of Australia, but in different parts of Australia that might also change. As bad as COVID is, I hope it's allowed everybody to take a breath and spend a little bit more time looking after their bees and getting back to their roots and enjoying doing what they love and they're passionate about, and being closer to your family. To get in touch with me, Adrian the Bee Farmer, you can go to my Facebook page or my website www.thebeefarmer.com and send us an email. We'd love to hear from you.